Hi, we're going to be doing a book review for a book called Escape, and this is about someone who grew up in a polygamous cult, and then she later on escaped the cult and went on to have, as normal of a life as she could afterwards, and independent and stuff. Let me try to get that camera a little straighter. Okay. So, she grew up in a cult that has polygamy, which is where you can have more than one wife. And it was very radical, religious cult, kind of. And she talks about her experiences and stuff in it. So it's called Escape by Carolyn Jessop. Jessop is like the last name of the guy that she had to marry and had some kids with and stuff, and was one of the wives. She had some help of Laura Palmer with the book. So I'll read the thing that's on the front of it. I was born into a radical polygamous cult. At 18, I became the fourth wife of a 50-year-old man. So she was 18. She got married to a 50-year-old man. I had 8 children in 15 years. When our leader began to preach the apocalypse, I knew I had to get them out. Okay? Escape provides an astonishing look behind the tightly drawn curtains of the FLDS Church, one of the most secretive religious groups in the United States. The story of Carolyn Jessop tells is so weird and shocking that one hesitates to believe a sect like this with 10,000 polygamous followers could really exist in the 21st century America. But Jessop's courageous, heart-wrenching account is absolutely factual. This riveting book reminds us that truth can indeed be much, much stranger than fiction. Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting read. So the FLDS Church is the the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's a radical offshoot of the Mormon Church that had settled in small communities along the Arizona-Utah border. Okay, so she's married to, let me just look at the inside as well. There's some stuff, because this sums up the info within the book that you're going to be reading about. She was arranged to a total stranger, a man 32 years her senior. He already had 3 wives. Merrill Jessop is the guy that she had to marry. Okay, so she was born into this fundamentalist church, and actually, somebody in her family helped to start the church. I think it was like her grandfather or something actually helped to start the church, a fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints, I think, or like some kind of offshoot of that. It might have been I don't know if that's the offshoot or that's the one that she was in, but okay, so she was in a radical offshoot of the Mormon Church, which the Mormon Church is more, I think, well known than the FLDS. Over the next 15 years, Carolyn had 8 children and withstood her husband's psychological abuse and watchful eye of his other wives, who were locked in a constant battle of supremacy. Carolyn's every move was directed by her husband's whims. He decided where she lived, how her children would be treated. He controlled the money she earned as a school teacher. He chose when they had sex. Carolyn could only refuse at her peril. For in the FLDS, a wife's compliance with her husband determined how much status both she and her children held in the family. Carolyn was miserable for years and wanted out, but she knew that if she tried to leave and got caught, her children would be taken away from her. A woman in the country No woman in the country had ever escaped from the FLDS and managed to get her children out too. But in 2003, Carolyn chose freedom over fear and fled her home with her 8 children. She had $20 to her name. Escape exposes the world tantamount to a prison camp created by religious fanatics who, in the name of God, deprive their followers of the right to make choice, force women to be totally subservient to men, and brainwash children in church-run schools. Against this background, Carolyn Jessop's flight takes on the extraordinary, inspiring power. Not only did she manage a daring escape from a brutal environment, she became the first woman ever to be granted full custody of her children in a contested suit involving the FLDS. And in 2006, her reports to the Utah Attorney General on church abuses formed a crucial part in the case that led to the arrest of the notorious leader, Jeff Warrens. I think it says she left the church and renounced. It says the the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a group that splintered from and renounced by the Mormon Church. So in other words, they don't see it as part of their stuff anymore. And spent, I think that's what it means, and spent most of her life in Colorado City, Arizona, the main base of FLDS. Since leaving the group in 2003, she has lived in West Jordan, Utah with her 8 children. Laura Palmer is somebody from like the book type agency that has helped her to write it. Okay, so sorry, that was like 7 minutes just right there reading some of the inside info. But I think that it's important to read it because it gives you some of the details about the stuff that you're going to be reading about. So basically, in my opinion, this was a really good read. At one point, like 75% of the way, 80% of the way through the book, I started having a hard time being able to finish the book because it is a lot of information that's pretty sad to read about, her real life stuff that was going on for her. She talks a lot about the psychological abuse that the other women do, and even physical abuse that they do towards other people's children within the cult, and also it's just really kind of complex type of psychological things that are going on within the cult group and within the family structures. So for her, I think somebody in her family actually helped to found the cult. So she had a somewhat high rank within the society just based on that. But there's ranking within the cult of different people. It seemed like young guys were kind of pushed out of the cult in the book, and kind of forced to do labor sometimes and contribute to the cult without always being compensated. And then girls were kind of used I don't know, you think of livestock and stuff, you think of these women in the cult, young girls, are used for breeding almost, every year almost, or every couple of years. If women can have kids, that's what they do. They have multiple, kids, and then a guy can have multiple wives if he has a high ranking, within the cult. And if you got 20 wives, 8 wives, 5 wives, you just have a lot of kids with them, and that's that can make your rankings go up within the cult. Her story kind of progresses from when she's a child, the norms within the cult, and then as time goes on and the new leadership comes in, how things get more radical in the cult. New leadership coming in with this Jeff Warrens guy in particular that's mentioned in the description. I mean, some points it talks about towards the end how he says that there can't be any dogs anymore within the community, and they get rid of them, or they throw them out, or I don't know if they kill them or they just throw them out to starve or what. But then also he starts doing things maybe they can't wear red anymore. They can't have anything that's red anymore. So like they have to get rid of all the red stuff. Or he says like, oh, you can only wear long underwear. You can't wear anything else. So like minute details of your daily life are handed down from the sect leader who says that he's getting information from God. And even towards the end of his like being the cult leader, or some people still think he is, like he's saying things like he's a reincarnation of Jesus Christ and his father is God, and his father was like a real person, but like he was getting old and gonna die, so he's like kind of like taking over, or somebody was God. Anyways, it gets real complicated, but the thing is, you learn about her experiences within the cult, which are pretty hard to deal with. Like you think about everyday life and how people have like hardships, like, you know, getting married, having children. Well, this girl, you know, is forced to like go into a family where there's already wives, and, you know, is expected to get down to business with this old guy and start having kids, and like you know, she doesn't really have any attraction to him, you know, like, but she's just expected to do all these all these things within the cult in order for her to please her husband, so that when he passes away and he's a spirit being, like, he will allow her to go into heaven with him, because the guy is like the key to getting into heaven for these women. And so it's really a lot of brainwashing within the cult about you know, having roles and expectations that you're supposed to follow in order to get to heaven. There's a lot of abuse within the cult of children, animals, women, just because there is such a hierarchy based on, you know, men and also religious fanatical ideas. So she talks about sometimes how like maybe a woman is like tied up behind like a cow or a bull or something, behind tied up, and the guy just wants to teach her a lesson to be obedient or something, and he almost like makes her have like a miscarriage or something, because she's like, I don't know if she's like pregnant or something, but I mean, I can't remember like the details because I read this a little while ago, a few months. But I mean, the stuff that she talks about, like the women and children and the vulnerable are really in danger in this cult. Like she talks about many instances when she's pregnant and her husband is deciding things based on the religious aspects of not wanting them to maybe go to the doctor as much, not wanting them to have, you know, some things that are more medical, sciencey, that are needed for them to be safe, you know, during a pregnancy. And so she talks about several instances where her life is in grave danger and she almost dies because she can't get, you know, medical attention. She can't just go to the doctor on her own. She has to have permission from her husband in order to do that. And like these women are sometimes severely nutritioned or something, like because they're just having kids a lot. Like, you know, if you can imagine having a kid every 1 to 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is to have so many kids, like your body, it takes a big toll on it. And she talks about like how her husband has control of the money and he doesn't like put food as a priority for all these kids, and how they have to like try to make do on like a limited budget for food when he's going out with like one of his wives and going one of his wives that he prefers, and going on vacations and eating at restaurants and like living kind of more lavish life. Well, kind of the other wives are at home more in poverty, not able to get basic essential needs. Another thing that's important is like how excluded this cult is from the rest of society. Like there's rules about not having like a computer and internet and TV and stuff like that. So like it's against the cult laws to like watch TV and stuff, and you can get in big trouble for doing different things. They like really like, I don't know, has different laws and regulations for like sex, for money, for, you know, power, for everything within your life. So it's very, you know, I don't know, it's very sad environment for a kid to be growing up in. There's sexual abuse within the cult, like the cult leader Jeff Warren's later on, you know, it comes out that he's been like sexually abusing his kids and other people within the cult. Yeah, it's just like, you know, physical abuse, you know, you have to take physical abuse from men, and in some ways it's like the leadership encourages some physical abuse so that you can show dominance over your wife and stuff like that, like showing physical abuse of children and wives in public kind of thing as well, like as an example, or hurting children to the point where they can be gravely injured, you know, even in a classroom situation, to show authority and stuff. So it's really a pretty crazy thing to have to grow up in. And this woman, you know, at some points throughout the book, you're like thinking, oh God, why doesn't this woman escape already? You know, she's getting treated like crap, you know? I think it's partly, you know, because they don't have a lot of experience with outside people and trust with outside people, because it's kind of brainwashed into them within the cult to not have that trust. But eventually she escapes, and, you know, towards the end of the book, the last maybe 10% of the book is about, you know, her escape and, like, the happiness that she has after she escapes. Might be 15%, I don't know, but the last portion of the book is what made me be able to finish the book, because, yeah, it was hard to finish, but then when it started to get a little happy, I was like, okay, finally, this woman's going to have some freedom. Finally, she's going to have some normalcy. And she does get some of that, but it is really hard for her to be able to pick up in a world where she doesn't, you know, have money. She doesn't have, you know, people to help her out and stuff. So, anyways, it's a really good book if you decide you want to read it. If anything, I think it will give you a great perspective on, you know, what different cults might do to, like, normalize some of this crazy stuff that goes on within them. I think it is really helpful in understanding a certain period of time. Like, I don't think I was really even, if I was born, I was little, but I just, like, in the news and stuff, I don't think I remember hearing about this stuff on the news. I'm trying to look for some dates here just to see, like, how old I was or what have you. Okay, in 2006, her reports to Utah Attorney General on church abuses. Okay, and in 2003, she chose freedom over fear, so that's when she escaped. So, like, 2005 is when I graduated from high school. So, like, I was probably busy doing my graduation stuff, just, you know, I probably didn't pay attention to this stuff in the news or anything. But anyways, it kind of helps if you didn't pay attention to this type of stuff in the news, because I guess it was in the news and things. If you don't have an understanding of this type of stuff and what is kind of, I think, still going on today in this cult. Hopefully it has less followers, but I don't know the numbers. I didn't look that up. But definitely it's a good thing to read, to understand more, to be more aware, to maybe be able to help people like this get out of cults, or, you know, just do what you can to recognize when somebody might be in a situation where they don't have control over their own, you know, self and well-being. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting read. I would definitely recommend it. She's got a few pictures in here too. One good part in the book is when she, like, has, like, a positive relationship with a guy after she gets out of the cult. It's like, wow, you finally have, like, something positive, like, going on in your life when it comes to a guy, and, like, not getting treated like crap type thing. That's her in the middle there, I think. And yeah, that's her with the baby, and I think that's her with the guy that she had to marry and his other wives or something. That's her graduating from a college. There's hardly nobody who got to graduate from college. That's a girl. I think this is the family people. Let me see if that's, I don't know if this is taken 4 years after I married Meryl. Okay, so that's the guy in the middle. Those are some of his wives and kids, I guess. You know, early on in their life, and he got more and more. So, yeah. And her kids, like, had some medical difficulties, too, that she had. And, like, she couldn't get help for them, hardly, because of, like, the strict rules that they had for her to be able to get help and stuff. And then I think this is her with the guy that she meets afterwards that she actually likes. Yeah, Brian, I guess. I don't know if she's still with him. But anyways, towards the end, it's like, oh, finally, some positive stuff is going on in your life. And it might be more than 10%. It just took a long time to get to the happy stuff. So anyways, this was a good 20 minutes already that I talked to you. So anyways, if you get a chance to read Escape, it's a good book, interesting. Definitely give you some better perspectives for other people's situations and lives, and maybe make you, I don't know, happy about the situation that you're in, or, you know, maybe some of the normalcy that you had in your life, if you did have even somewhat more normalcy than she had, because it definitely, you know, wasn't easy for her. So, yeah, if you get a chance to read it, pick it up. Highly recommended. I think you have to be in a good frame of mind to be able to read it. Like, it's not an easy, happy read. So, it's definitely not recommended for everybody. Only somebody who thinks they might find some of the historical, some of the, you know, situational aspects interesting, and maybe something you can learn from and get something out of. So anyways, that's all for today. I got one other book review that I might do, and then I'm going to call it a day. Alright, have a good one. Bye-bye.